Hey guys, what's up? It's Jacob, aka skaxdad. Welcome to Base episode 2, featuring Tim Karns of the legendary band The Toasters. We talk about how Tim got involved in music, about he joined The Toasters, and about how he got endorsed. We talk about so much more as well. Please listen, please like and subscribe, leave comments, let me know what you think, let me know who you want to hear from, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Thank you again so much. I really appreciate the support. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Well, thank you so much for just giving me some of your time to talk to you. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Of course, man. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm so stoked. When did you know that music was just gonna be a part of your life? Like when you knew that's what you wanted to do?
I mean, it kind of always was because my father made a living playing guitar when I was a kid. So, it's kind of that was kind of there's always music in the house. There was music outside of the house. There's records everywhere. We were allowed to play whatever we wanted to, listen to whatever we wanted to. Any of his stuff we were allowed. There's jazz, there was classical stuff, there was contemporary stuff, there was like some like funk. There's all kinds of music in the house all the time. If my dad was home or if my parents were home, there was usually a record playing. So it was kind of just something that was in our home all the time. And then I guess I don't think I ever expected to be a working musician. I don't think that was ever in the plan. Does anybody? I mean, does that ever work out for anybody?
Right. Man, that's awesome. So your dad played guitar, so just because I guess how come you didn't follow your dad's footsteps with the guitar, or did you? Did you start
No,
playing?
I didn't. My brother, I have a brother that's 2 years older than me, and my dad was teaching for a while, and he was teaching my brother to play guitar, and I guess sixth or seventh grade, I think I was. My father asked at dinner one night. He's like, would you like to learn to play guitar? And I said, no, I want to learn how to play bass. And he said, okay, well, tell me why first. And I said, because he's going to need a bass player. And I was talking about my brother. So most of my friends at that age were all playing guitar or drums, and nobody was playing bass. And I just, I grew up around my father's band, and I didn't realize at the time that the bass player in the band would have a pretty big influence on me. I just liked, Mr. Weber was just this cool bass player, like your stereotypical Floyd Pepper kind of like, 70s bass player. He could sing, he could play, just ripping parts. He also was sick pocket player, and I didn't even know all that stuff when I was little. So I think, somewhere between my father's influence and his bass player's influence, I arrived at the bass.
Nice.
And that's all I know how to play. Like, I have a couple guitars, but I mean, I can play I can play G, C, D, A, and that's pretty much it, unless you want bar chords.
Man, that's awesome to hear. I kind of fell into the same situation. My dad was gonna get me an instrument for Christmas, and all of my friends play guitar. So I was like, "Yeah, no one plays the bass. Like, I'll try this out."
And weren't you
So,
glad?
yeah, yo, man, so happy. My parents didn't know that I needed an amp, so they just bought me an electric bass first, and then I got the amp like afterwards. But I still had so much fun like playing.
Yeah, I didn't have an amplifier probably for the first 2 years that I had a bass. Like, my dad was teaching at a couple of shops and teaching at a college when he came off the road, and he came home from work one night after that conversation with a Japanese Beetle bass copy. So it was semi hollow. So I think that was intentional, because then he didn't have to listen to me stumble through a bunch of stuff, through an amplifier. So I didn't get an amplifier until I was like a sophomore in high school or something like that. It's like 2 or 3, 4 years after. And, I think that's one of the reasons why I play so hard. It's because I didn't have an amp for a really long time.
Damn, that's crazy. So like when you were learning and your dad wasn't around, how were you practicing?
I was he got me some lessons at a local music shop, which was, like it was pretty, he gave me like 2 lessons, and then he was too busy to teach me. So he got me lessons at a local music store, and I took those for a while. and, a really cool guitar player taught me some really cool stuff, and, taught me how to pick songs apart with my ear, and taught me to read a little bit, which I don't remember. And, and then I took some more serious lessons from one of my dads, a guy that my dad was working with, a bass player that my dad was working with. But for the most part, when I was at home, I was just like listening to records and trying to, pick bass parts apart by ear to learn them. And that's what I did. I just wore records out doing that, and tapes. My poor parents probably had to hear the same, you got to back up and, start play it again and back up and play it again. And, I was probably driving them crazy, and I'm grateful that they never made me stop.
What are like some of the bass lines or bass players that you were listening to, like when you first started learning?
I think a lot of the, I was born in the late 60s. So, there was a lot of good rock and roll on the radio. There were album rock stations. There were 3 album rock stations in DC, and they were playing album cuts and stuff, so you could, if a Ted Nugent record came out, they weren't just playing Cat Scratch Fever. They were playing the third song on the second side of the record, so you got exposed to a lot of stuff. And that was a good time for, there was a good time for rock bassists. We got Foghat, the bass player from Foghat was insane. The Ted Nugent's bass, I don't like Ted now because of his politics, but I liked his music when I was growing up, and he always had great musicians in his band. Timothy Schmidt from the Eagles, Randy Meisner from the Eagles, the stuff that was on the records that my father, my mom were listening to, Rocco Prestia, God rest his soul. Guys that were in that band, the Crusaders, which are a bunch of slick LA session guys from the 70s. Just all kinds of stuff. I didn't really start pulling stuff apart. Like when I started pulling records apart and trying to learn songs and stuff, it was heavier stuff. So like when I started learning Iron Maiden songs, when my friends and I could make our way all the way through Wrathchild, then I figured we were probably onto something that we should keep doing.
Man, that's awesome. Steve Harris is 100% like one of my biggest influences.
He's incredible.
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, he's incredible.
And
he's still it. You know what I mean? Like he's 10 years older than me, and he's still playing soccer and like slaying on bass. Like and he's piloting one of the the biggest rock bands in history, and they're still doing it and doing it very, very well. I mean, they would be if we weren't off the road and stuff, but Steve Harris is the man.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you start like forming bands after you're comfortable playing and stuff?
Right in high school. When I was in I think when I was in 7th grade, I was playing with guys that were in 8th grade, just for fun. That only happened a couple of times. And then, when I got into high school, I made friends with some, guys that were into the same kind of stuff as me, that were at the same level, if not a little bit better, probably a little bit better. So, we would help each other figure stuff out, and we were, started forming bands as early as freshman year of high school.
When you started those bands, were they like cover bands, or were you already trying to write your own music?
They were cover bands. We were learning other people's stuff, the typical stuff, all the heavy rock stuff that we were doing at the time. I didn't start getting into, seriously into ska until much later. But when I was learning hard rock, and then I branched off into some other stuff.
Yeah, there's a few bass players I know, or like musicians I know that are ska musicians who totally didn't start off like even like listening to ska. Like when did ska start becoming like a part of your life?
I had some friends when I was in high school that I didn't go to school with. We would skate or ride our bikes together and stuff. And one of them was this guy called Tom, who was a year or two older than me. He lived around the corner. And he was starting to get into punk and new wave and ska. And he was, he was playing The Clash for me and playing, Joe Jackson and, some of that kind of stuff. And then one day he pulled out the Dance Craze record, and, that had a lot of good people on it. I don't know if you've heard that record, maybe. But yeah, so I kind of learned that was a kind of a foundational thing. And then when I started, right before I started playing with the Skunks, I started getting into it. And then, when I got into the Skunks, they just, threw me into the deep end of the stuff, and they just shared everything with me, which was great. So that would have been like 92, 93 maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So like what were the first, I guess, ska bass players that you heard that you were like really like their kind of style?
Well, obviously, Horace. I mean, you can't really, I don't think you can do anything that we're doing without having some sort of a little bit of Horace in your blood. To this day, he still amazes me. Like, those like nightclub. I had to learn nightclub recently, and I just couldn't believe how much fun it is. Like Horace was a big influence. Matt Malice, obviously from the Toasters before me, like, he's amazing. He's one of those guys who, like, anything he can think of, he can execute. That's a different level of musician as far as I'm concerned. And then, when Truth and Soul came out, one of my friends handed me that cassette, and then Norwood just changed everything. All those different styles that he combined to make something unique of his own was just incredible.
Man, that's awesome. So when did you start jamming with the Toasters?
I was in the Skunks in the mid '90s, and we were on Moon, like they put out the cassette for us, and then we did a record with them. So Skunks did a lot of shows with Toasters, because it was only 4 hours from DC to New York, or 7 hours to Ohio, or 8 hours or whatever. So they started taking us out on little weekend runs and stuff. And we went out with them one weekend, and Buck wasn't there. There was a family emergency, so the band came out without him. And Matt Malice was switching off between guitar, and he was playing guitar, and Rick Faulkner was playing bass, except when there was a prominent trombone line that Rick would have to play trombone and Matt would play bass, and then they wouldn't have any guitar. So I think we were doing 3 dates on a weekend with them in Ohio. And like the second night, they were like, "Do you think you could play these songs?" And I'm, "No, there's no way I could play these songs." But I did it, and I didn't do it well. I'm not going to lie. It's probably, if it wasn't for Rick and Matt standing right next to me calling chords out and stuff. I mean, I knew some of the songs. I just had never tried to play them before. So that was an emergency situation. And then Matt took a leave of absence for a family reason, and I filled in for him. And then when he left to go to the business side of the production side of stuff, he called me one night out of the blue, and he's like, so I think I'm going to leave Toasters, and I just wanted to know if you might be interested in that job. And I was like, well, of course, but if I can't do it, I could recommend a couple of guys. And he said, I'm only allowed to call 2 people, and you're the first person on the list. So I never knew who the other person was, and I'm glad that they didn't get that call. So that was like, I guess 97 when Matt went over to, like, he left to go work with Less Than Jake, and then he's built himself a pretty good career on the production side of the business side of music, which is great for him and even better for me. So I guess it was around 97 that I first started playing with them, and I was with them for like 3 years. And then I didn't leave on bad terms. We just weren't really working that much. Like, I think the first year I was in the band, we did 250 shows. And the year that I left the band, we were going to do about 75. So I didn't really want to leave, but I wanted to make a living. At that point, I was making a living doing it, and it was getting harder and harder to do so. So I had to go find something else. And that was tough, man. That was really tough. And then this time I started playing with them again about 6 years ago when Thaddeus left. And I filled in for him a couple of times. So, which led me to believe that we were all on really good terms, which thankfully we still are. And I've been doing it for about 6 years now.
That's crazy. So I guess just for musicians who like haven't been in that spot, can you give any advice, like when you do find yourself in a position to where maybe you're spending a lot of time with a band or an artist, and you like recognize things like that, like you're not getting a lot of shows? Because I know it's like a difficult uh decision to make, but like I guess just any advice on like what to look for, or like I guess how to maybe even get work or studio sessions, something like that.
Well, I mean, I don't know what it's like for you and, your contemporaries, but it seems like, every time I go out on the road with Toasters and we spend time with another band, if we play a show with another band or, just some friends come by to see us or whatever, the question that people always ask me is, what other bands are you in? Because it seems like everybody's in more than one band now. Sorry about that. My dogs are
That's
about
okay.
to. But yeah, so, like, I think it's not a bad idea to try to explore a couple of different things at the same time to keep yourself creative and busy and stuff like that. I don't do that. I'm not opposed to it, but, I'd like to try to keep my commitment to the Toasters as available as possible. And if you can try to find a job that'll let you, like a day job that'll let you do that, that's golden. You really should hold on to something like that.
Nice. Great advice.
That answer your question?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Um, I remember when the Toasters came maybe a couple years ago to San Antonio. We played at Jack's Patio, and I was opening for y'all, and I got to use your bass equipment, and it was awesome. But I know that you're sponsored by Orange, Seymour Duncan, and Reverend. So I just want to see, like, I guess how do you as a musician like start looking into getting endorsed by other companies like that?
You just like, luckily for me, when I was in Toasters in the old days, I think they had a Miller Genuine Draft sponsorship, and I think Buck had a Gibson thing for a minute, but that was before I was in the band, and I just never asked anybody I never asked, and like the ska scene like was bigger back then than it is now, and I think with the Toasters legacy, it made it a lot easier this time to get some help from some companies. I can't really say that's I didn't really do anything but ask, and you can do that politely and humbly, as politely and professionally as you possibly can. But I had 40 years of Buck's hard work to kind of open those doors for me. When I reached out to Orange, they were the first people I talked to when I started working with Buck again, and I figured I would start at the top and see what happened, and that worked out beautifully. And it still has. Like, I can't say enough about that relationship and that company and the people that work there and the friends that I've made because of it. And I just like, it's the best gear I've ever had in my life. Like, that's the most beautiful thing about this part of my career is I have the best gear I can possibly have. I have 3 Orange amplifiers now. I don't know which one you played through. If you played through the OB1, the rack mounted one.
I think it was rack mounted.
Okay, yeah. So there's 2 Terra bases here now, and then that one's in Texas. So you can go over to Buck's house and you can try it out again if you want to. And then the cabinet, the 410 cabinet, and then I just got. I don't know if you know about this thing, but you got the bass butler.
No, I don't know about that.
You should look into it because it's amazing. So, but yeah, so Orange, like, that was great. Like, that was Buck though. I mean, like, I just, I said I was from Toast, that I was going to be playing with Toasters again, and they said they'd be interested in working with me. And then the Reverend thing, that's Buck's heart. Like, Buck's been working with them for over 10 years, and they're great. I mean, they've been great to the ska scene. Like, the more shows the more shows I play, the more frequently I'm seeing other people playing Reverend stuff. So, they're just quietly building this army of artists that want to play this stuff. And the reason that we want to play it is because it's great. And I believe so much in the people that do it, but that, that's Buck's relationship again, that I'm capitalizing on. And the Duncan thing, I just asked them, I was just curious about some stuff, and they sent some stuff out. Trying to think of anybody else. Ernie Ball's been helpful since the Toasters were on a Warped Tour 100 years ago. Dunlop pedals and stuff and cables, they've been really good to us. My buddy Paul Frank, the graphic artist, he makes us these cool straps and stuff, and that's just I guess to answer your question more directly without sweating all these wonderful people that are so good to us, because believe me, I'm not blowing my own horn here. I'm just thanking them whenever chance I get. I guess if you're interested in something, just ask politely. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just playing like once every 7 months, out at a club or whatever, or at the high school or whatever, there will be some companies that will want to help you out, but it's got to be probably mutually beneficial for you and for the company. If they want exposure, so I think that's where you can be the most helpful. So I just try to, include them in pretty much everything that we do going forward. But they've done more for me than I could possibly ever do for them.
And that's awesome advice. I've played Reverend at like this little like guitar, like fancy guitar shop in Austin. I remember him sounding like so good. And when I played through your orange amp, I sounded so great. I was kind of like nervous because I was like, man, I gotta play good, like because I've heard everything in the orange, like every little thing I did. I was just like, all right, I have to play very precise tonight, like because you're gonna hear every single thing that I do. But
and like, I don't know if you noticed when you plugged in, my stage volume's not really that loud. I mean, I don't know if you turned it up or if you just played at the same level that I normally do, but like it's definitely there. You know what I mean? Like it's going to expose you. That's for sure. There's way more power than you need, but it's great stuff. But let me show you this. Have you seen this?
Oh, I have not.
So this is a Reverend Dub King. They sent me this pretty much around the time of my birthday to try out, and nobody's asked for it back yet. So I'm just quietly hoping that they don't.
Yeah.
But it's a semi-hollow 30-inch scale, set neck, string through, binding everywhere. I mean, it's a completely unique and interesting thing to my arsenal, but it's unbelievable. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I was like looking and I thought it was like just like a semi-hollow guitar at first, and then right when you grabbed it, I was like, oh, it's a bass. I can see that.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, it's great. I hope I get to use it.
Yeah, for sure. I guess which could kind of lead us like into our next kind of discussion. Like, how do you think we can get back to like a pre-COVID music scene? Like, do you think it's possible just in general, or what do you think? Like, what do you see in the future?
I think it's going to be tricky. Like, I think the big question in everybody in our scene's mind is like the elephant in the room is, Supernova's been rescheduled for June of 2021. And, I'm watching other big festivals that were supposed to happen in June get postponed out to December, and even later. Without getting too political, I think if people don't start wearing masks and taking this business seriously, we might never get to go back to work. It'll end up being like a pay-per-view stuff, pay-per-view situation where you got to watch it from your home, or like, there's a baseball stadium across the street that's doing like social distance shows where you pay per carload to get onto the parking lot. And like every third space is a place where you can put your car and, you can stand around your car and watch a band that's like 30 feet away from you and stuff, so to try to keep things safe. There's clubs that are in trouble. Small venues all over the country, all over the world are drying up because they can't make a living. They can't bring any money in because they can't put any bands in the room because nobody can stand next to each other. I think the only thing that we can do right now is, try to support each other's projects. Nobody's making any money on ticket sales anymore. Maybe there's like Metallica is selling, doing online things and stuff like that. Maybe that's something that they can do, but that's not anything that the Toasters can do at this point, or Mustard Plug or Mephistopheles or any of my other friends. Some of my friends in bands, that's their entire livelihood, like Kristen from Scotch Bonnets. That's all she does is play music. That's her entire life. You know what I mean? She's got a bunch of different projects, and she's in, some nights she's in bars with an acoustic guitar. My friend Claire from Free Coasters, same thing. So a lot of little clubs are drying up. A lot of bands are stagnant. People are running out of money. Things are starting to get desperate. A lot of our contemporaries are going to start having to get day jobs and doing like contact tracing from home for like AAA or whoever will hire them. The only thing we can do right now, I think, is to try to support each other's projects in other ways. There's no merch tables. Go to the website, order stuff from your friends' bands, order music from order your friend's record, order the records of a band that you like. If you were thinking about getting a record that you didn't grab last time you went to go see a band, look it up, find it, buy it, go to Jump Up, buy it. You know what I mean? That's really the only thing that we can do for each other right now. And we just have to be patient. We have to look after each other, and we have to be careful, and you got to wear a mask. Cause I think the first show that I get to play, if this ever cleans up and we can ever go out and do this again, just think about how many months of frustration and, desperation people are, like, musicians and artists are bottling up. When you can finally go see a show, it's going to slay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The first time Toasters get to play in front of a crowd again, we're going to melt your face. We're going to go for it. That's all I can say. I'm not trying to say, like, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but it's probably going to be the best show you've ever seen in your life, because, how long has it been? I haven't played a show in over, I got home on March 4th and I've been home ever since. So, just try to support your favorite bands and the artists that you like, and your friends that, aren't on the road. Buy their paintings, buy their photography, whatever else they do. Like, if you can do it, if you would normally have money that you could spend on a ticket, spend it on something like that. And that's the only way we can keep our friends alive for now.
Yeah, definitely, totally agree. Also 100% on the mask, just like a common courtesy too, right? Just to everyone, like, yeah, just wear a mask. So I was pretty stoked when I was looking at your Friends of Tim shirts. I just want you to kind of, like, I guess, how'd you come up with that idea, and maybe explain that idea to people who don't know about
Well, it was a pretty short campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It started, like, when I first started playing with Buck again. I do screen printing just for fun. I'm not really any good at it. I just make a few things here, make some patches or make some koozies or whatever. So, like, I started making these koozies to take with me and put in my suitcase and give out to friends and stuff. But I didn't, I just wanted, I never really talked to anybody when I was in the Toasters in the old days. I was too just painfully shy. I couldn't do it. So this time around, I'm trying to be a little more, I missed out on meeting a lot of really cool and interesting people. And this time I want to make sure that I do that. So this is a good icebreaker for me. I can be like, hey man, would you like a koozie? And they're like, yeah, how are you? And, like, then we start talking and things are cool. So that's where that came from. And then my friend's a screen printer here in Salem, Virginia. And he wanted to do a couch tour thing for some local bands and some small businesses and stuff. And so he did a Toaster shirt and he did a skunk shirt for us. And I said, well, would you be interested in doing some Friends of Tim shirts? And he said, yeah, sure. What do you think any of them will sell? And I said, probably not. But if they do, I'll use the money to buy stuff from my other friends that are in bands. I'll buy their stuff with the money. If any money comes in, I'll turn it back around. So there was a skunk shirt, a Toaster shirt, and a Friends of Tim shirt. And the Friends of Tim shirt outsold both of them. But we did sell a bunch of skunk shirts and we did sell a bunch of Toaster shirts. So I was really kind of blown away by the whole thing. But that's where that came from. So, but I used that money to buy records. Like I said before, I bought records from friends' bands. I bought merch from friends' bands. I bought a shirt from the Motorhead Road Crew campaign. I've donated money to the Roadie Relief Fund. I bought some photographs from one of my friends who's a guitar tech who's not on the road right now. And, I wouldn't have had the money to do that if it wasn't for the people that bought the shirts. So you talking about it right now gives me a chance to thank everybody that bought a shirt, because I was totally humbled by the whole thing. And my dogs are about to go crazy because my family's coming back from running to the store. So if they do, just bear with me for a second.
Yeah, no worries at all. So just really, we can kind of wrap it up. Just in general, where can people follow you? Where can people get updated on the Toasters?
I think the best way, I'm on Instagram at TimmyLee6. It's TimmyLeesixx. At Toasters NYC on Instagram is another good way to keep in touch with us. I have access to that, and so does Buck. So you get it from Texas and Virginia. But yeah, Bands in Town is an app that's very useful. Our booking agent's on it, keeping that updated. So if you follow the Toasters on Bands in Town, you'll find out when we can actually get back on the road and what's going to happen. There is also Toasters Facebook. I'm on Facebook. You know that. But yeah, just, if anybody really wants, I'm not really that exciting on Instagram or whatever, but if anybody wants to follow, please feel free to hit me up. And if you do, just make sure you send me a note and say hello. And we have Toaster stuff available at Social Revolt. Do you know about those guys? They're in San Antonio.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm not too familiar.
Yeah, so our web store now is at socialrevoltstore.com. So if anybody wants to grab a shirt or something. We also did this coffee collaboration with this cool boutique coffee brand in New Jersey called Dead Sled. So if you go to deadsledcoffee.com, you can order the Toasters coffee, which just came out, and it is dynamite. And I'm super stoked because I'm the one that helped put it together. I guess that's pretty much the best way to find out what we're up to right now. And, I'm sure once everybody gets on the road again, we'll be just like hiring blimps and airplanes on the beach and stuff like that with those signs.
All right, Tim. Well, I really appreciate you just taking the time to talk to me. I'm so stoked to just share this with everyone. And I just hope you have a great rest of your day. And hopefully I see you and the Toasters soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. I mean, it was a great opportunity. It's great to speak with you, and good to see you and talk to another admired bass player again. Geez, I can't, the kid across the street is the only other bass player I have any access to right now. So it's really great to talk to you.
I really appreciate it, man. All right. Well, thank you. You have a good night.
You too, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Later.